Hello everyone, this is Waterfall Joe and welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to be discussing 5 of my favorite things about my OM system, OM-1 Mark II. Now I've had this camera for almost 9 months now and I really have just enjoyed all the time I've spent shooting with it. In today's video I'm just going to go over some of my favorite features that I've been using and how they have impacted my photography. So let's dive in. So I can't believe it, I bought this camera back in October of 2024 and I cannot believe here it is June, almost July of 2025. The time has flown by, but I have thoroughly enjoyed all of the time I've been out shooting with my OM-1 Mark II. We had a great winter. I got to take it out in the snow, shoot some waterfalls, shoot some landscapes with it. Of course, we got the beautiful spring and I was able to do a lot of waterfalls here in Connecticut. And just recently, my girlfriend and I went on a huge trip out to New Mexico and Arizona, and I got to use this thing. I took over 3,000 photos with it, and I shot some beautiful landscapes with it. And that was something I was really looking forward to because this camera is such a great camera, but I really wanted to take it on a big trip and see how it performed, you know, out in the wilderness for 10 days. I can give it 2 thumbs up that this thing is absolutely a powerhouse of a camera. And today I just want to discuss some of my favorite features about this camera that have really changed the way that I do my photography. And the first one we're going to be discussing is the computational features. Now, OM System is the leader in computational photography. This is their game and no one else even comes close to it. So my absolute favorite features about this camera are the amazing tech that is packed into this camera, a few other OM System cameras, but really no one else has it. In terms of my favorite computational modes, it has to be Live ND first and foremost. I mean, I use this thing all the time for my waterfall photography. It is kind of the reason that I bought an OM System camera is the Live ND. Being able to replicate up to 7 stops of ND filters in the OM-1 Mark II instead of having to physically carry ND filters was such a game changer for me. It has truly changed the way that I photograph waterfalls. It has made my trips so much easier because I don't have to carry that much more stuff with me anymore. I no longer have to debate whose filter do I want to use? How many stops do I want to take with me? It's all here in the camera, which has just saved me so much headache. And the ND filter simulation in this camera is just so good. You know, I know if you ever do like long exposures on an iPhone, you can see that where it stacks, it's not so good. But the sensor speed of the sensor readout speed of the OM-1 Mark II is so fast that it's able to replicate multiple second exposures as if it was actually doing the long exposures with an ND filter on the camera, if that makes sense. Somehow it stacks so efficiently that you can't even tell that it's actually stacking pictures, and that's absolutely just one of the best things about these cameras. The OM-1 Mark II, the OM-3, the OM-5, the OM-5 Mark II, just to list a few cameras that have the Live ND, it is truly one of the greatest features in any camera if you're a long exposure photographer like myself, and that right there, Live ND is my #1 feature that I love about this camera so much. Now there are some other computational features that I absolutely love, however I don't use them nearly as much as Live ND. The second one that I absolutely love is the high-res mode, or the handheld high-res mode, or HHHR as it's called. Handheld high-res mode is also known as pixel shift, and that's where it takes a bunch of pictures in a very quick succession and it stacks all of them together in the camera, and it gives you a humongous file that was much larger than rather one photo. Now you have 2 modes on the OM-1 Mark II. You have the 50 megapixel handheld high-res mode. You also have the 80 megapixel high-res mode, which you have to shoot on a tripod. For me personally, I have used the 80 megapixel mode once. I just don't need that large of a file ever. Even the 50 megapixel file is kind of too overkill for my style of photography. The 20 megapixel sensor and the 20 megabyte raw files that this camera produces are more than enough for 99% of my work. But if you're looking at getting an OM-1 Mark II and you are coming from, let's say, a larger sensor camera or a camera with more resolution, you're going to appreciate the high-res modes that kind of take this thing and give it the horsepower of a camera that's much larger than it. Now there are some exceptions with the high-res mode. You cannot photograph anything moving. So you can't use it for wildlife, birds, anything of that nature. You can use it for anything like architecture, landscapes. You can shoot waterfalls with it, but I find that the Live ND stacks the photos a lot better, so it looks cleaner in my opinion. If you're trying to do any sort of photography that involves a ton of cropping or making humongous enlargements, OM System cameras should not be overlooked just because they utilize a smaller sensor compared to a full frame. Using the high-res mode also gives you 2 stops of noise reduction. So if you're shooting in any sort of low light situation, so you've actually lowered your noise while also producing a much higher resolution image. And that puts this right on par with some of the best full frame cameras out there that are double, triple the money of it. So if you're trying to do any sort of architecture, product photography, commercial photography, I would absolutely check out one of these cameras, especially with the high res mode. And my third and final computational mode that I would love to discuss is the live composite mode. You've probably seen a few of my videos here where I've discussed live composite, but what it does is it takes a base photo and then it stacks new light sources on top of that photo without overexposing your original base photo. For example, I photographed fireflies a few weeks ago in my backyard, and I ended up putting it in live composite mode for about an hour, and it stacked over 400 photos, but it did not blow out the lights, it did not blow out the backyard light, it didn't blow out the street light. The only new light that it captured was the fireflies as they glowed around my backyard, which was really cool. This is also extremely helpful for star trails or any sort of space photos. You can set your camera up, and even if there's lights in the foreground that might be distracting, you don't have to worry that if you do an hour-long exposure, you're going to blow out anything, because the camera has already calculated that it is only going to capture new light. So as your stars rotate through the sky, it is going to capture those as new light sources without blowing out your foreground. To finish up with the section on computational, there are so many more computational modes that I personally just don't really use much, and I really would like to. For example, the live graduated ND. The OM-1 Mark II was the first camera ever to feature that, and there are only two at the moment, the OM-1 Mark II and the OM-3. It allows you to replicate graduated ND filters for sunset photography, where you can darken a portion of your photo without darkening the other section. So for example, you can darken your sky without darkening your foreground for sunset photography. The focus stacking mode is huge with the macro community, and it's just not something I really do a lot of. But your camera will actually take up to 16 photos and stack all of them for you into a JPEG, a final image. Not a lot of cameras have in-camera focus stacking these days. Most cameras take the photo and you have to stack it yourself on your computer. So if you're into macro at all, the OM-1 Mark II has in-camera focus stacking, which will help ease your workflow. I can make an entire video just about computational modes, but we're going to move on to number 2 of my favorite features of my OM-1 Mark II. So my second favorite feature of my OM-1 Mark II is absolutely the weather sealing of this camera. So OM System prides itself as being one of the most outdoor-oriented camera companies out there. They are so proud of the weather seal on these cameras that they actually put the IP rating here on the back of the camera. As if that's not a certificate of do whatever you want with this camera, then I don't know what is. I have no issues whatsoever taking my OM-1 Mark II to any place at any time and any weather. I really don't worry about it whatsoever. I've seen many videos of people taking their OM-1 Mark IIs and just pouring it under running water. I haven't done that yet. I would like to try it, but I know if it's raining, if it's snowy, if it's just really disgusting outside, I know that this absolute beast of a camera can handle it with no issues whatsoever. And if you're looking for an outdoor camera, I mean, I don't know if there's a better outdoor camera than this. I would have no gripes whatsoever taking this in the worst weather and not even worrying about it one bit. Now, of course, these cameras don't like to be submerged in water, so of course don't take it into the ocean or into a lake with you or anything. But if you're out shooting in any sort of weather, it can handle the weather, absolutely. And that's just kind of what I need for my photography. I do waterfalls, I do long exposures in any weather. I really need a camera that I know can handle it, and the OM-1 Mark II is the outdoor camera to have. Now, if you're a wildlife photographer, a landscape photographer, or if you just like to go out hiking and you want to take a camera that can handle the elements, the OM-1 Mark II is absolutely that camera. You pair this up with one of OM System's many weather-sealed lenses, and you have an outdoor kit that can pretty much handle anything you throw at it. Now, on to my third favorite feature of my OM-1 Mark II, and that has to be the IBIS. So IBIS stands for In-Body Image Stabilization, and Olympus, now OM System, has always kind of been the go-to for some of the best IBIS you'll find in the industry. The OM-1 original had 7 stops of IBIS. Now the OM-1 Mark II has up to 8.5 stops of IBIS when you use a lens that has sync IS, such as the 12-100. That's absolutely mind-boggling, and that allows you to get up to multiple second handheld long exposure images, handheld without a tripod. If you're trying to travel lightweight and leave a tripod at home, this really is the camera to go for, or this This camera or the OM-3, they both have some of the best IBIS you will find in the industry. I find that I used to shoot with the tripod all the time back in the day when I shot Nikon because I wasn't able to go below like, 1/25th of a second. But now with this camera, I pretty much shoot 1 second handheld waterfalls all the time, and I mostly leave my tripod at home nowadays. When we went on our Arizona-New Mexico trip, I left my tripod in the car for most of the time unless we were doing astrophotography, such as stars and Milky Way. Then of course you have to have your tripod for 20 seconds. We're not at the point yet where we can do 20-second handheld, but maybe one day. So you pair up the OM-1 Mark II with its already incredible in-body image stabilization with one of the OM system Sync IS lenses, and you're able to get up to 8.5 stops of IBIS, which I think is some of the best you're going to find of any camera manufacturer at any price point. So for me personally, I combine the IBIS in this, plus the live ND, plus the weather sealing. That means I leave my tripod, my ND filters at home, I take my camera, I take a lens, and I go out and shoot handheld waterfalls up to multiple seconds, no issues whatsoever. I have just reduced the amount of stuff in my bag by 60–70%. No tripod, no filters, just a camera and a lens. If you're looking for the ultimate handheld photography experience for landscapes, traveling, wildlife, I really think the OM-1 Mark II is the ultimate handheld travel camera. Now for my fourth favorite feature of my OM-1 Mark II, I'm not going to say it's a feature more than a spec, but it has to be the size, the compact nature of not only this camera, but of Micro Four Thirds in general. Now, the OM-1 Mark II is one of the largest Micro Four Thirds cameras alongside the Lumix G9 and the G9 II. So by no means is this a small camera in terms of Micro Four Thirds. Of course, with the GM1s, the GX85s, the OM5s, those are all much smaller than this camera. But in terms of how much tech is packed into this camera, and in terms of how powerful of a camera this is a flagship level camera, remind you. The other flagship cameras from all the other manufacturers are about yay big and cost 3 times as much as this. So in terms of how much technology is packed into this metal weather sealed body, I am very impressed with the size. Of course, the beauty of Micro Four Thirds is the compact nature of most of the lenses. For example, this is my 40-150 f4. Now this is a pro level lens made of metal. It's an f4 aperture all the way through. It is extremely well built. This is as big as it gets. This is a 300mm in full frame equivalent, and it's, what is that? The size of a soda can when you collapse it in. I mean, come on. You pair this up with the OM-1 Mark II, you have a 300mm equivalent that isn't that big whatsoever. This is my Panasonic 9mm f1.7 wide angle, and look at the size of this. This is an 18mm equivalent in full frame, but I don't think you're going to find a full frame lens wide angle like this that's this size. This is the Panasonic Leica lens, so of course it has that stamp of approval by Leica, so you know that the glass quality is excellent. And finally, this is my 12-40 f2.8 Pro by OM System. This is a 24-80mm equivalent in full frame. One of the greatest lenses from OM System that's ever been made, often rated as one of their best. It's the kit lens that you get when you buy an OM-1 Mark II. But this lens right here is on my camera 90% of the time, and just the size of it is so impressive. This is a full metal lens with the pro quality glass, pro quality build quality, and it's really not that large whatsoever. I have no issues at all taking this camera and this lens, throwing it in a small bag, and I would travel the entire world with it, no issues whatsoever. That's the beauty of the OM-1 Mark II and of Micro Four Thirds, is this camera does not overwhelm me with how heavy it is. I don't feel bad after using it for a few hours of shooting. I don't feel like, oh my God, my shoulders hurt from how heavy my camera is. That's the reason that I switched to this system in the first place. I didn't want heavy, and while the OM-1 Mark II is not in the smallest of Micro Four Thirds cameras, it is much smaller than the full frames, especially once you start looking at lenses, and good luck finding any full frame camera with anywhere near as much tech packed into it as this one has. Even if you get a full frame camera such as the A7C Sony, which is actually a little bit smaller than this, it has none of the computational modes that the OM-1 Mark II has. So while this camera is a little bit larger, I view it as being a kind of a supercomputer, if you will. There's so much stuff happening inside of this camera, it's kind of hard to fathom, to be honest with you. So I'm okay having a slightly larger Micro Four Thirds camera because there are plenty of smaller lenses to choose from. Plus, the camera by itself having all of that tech packed into it has now saved me the additional weight of having to bring a tripod plus 5 different ND filters with me. So while the camera itself is a little bit larger than, say, a smaller micro four thirds camera, the technology has definitely made up for that. Okay, and for my 5th favorite feature of this camera, it's kind of going to be a little bit of a cop-out, but it's going to be the fact that this is by far the most advanced camera I have ever used, and it's not even close. Now, I have never shot like the Canon R1 or the Nikon Z9 or the Sony A1, but I also don't have $6,000 to spend on a camera. Now, this one comes in closer to $2,000 and has a lot more tech than those cameras. So that's more my style. And it's kind of funny that here I am talking about one of the most advanced cameras ever made, and in reality, I'm kind of more of a Luddite. I absolutely hate AI. I don't have the fanciest phone. I have a very old Samsung phone. I have an older car. I don't really embrace any new technology. I don't wear any smart watches or anything like that. So I've always kind of been someone who's a little bit technology behind, and I've never really been someone who's like, I want the most cutting edge thing. Like I said, I personally hate AI, and I hate that it's kind of taking over our everyday lives. But here I am. I shoot probably one of the most advanced cameras ever made, and I'm over here just absolutely smitten over this camera. But the reality is, I think that the amount of tech packed into this camera has kind of changed my way that I do my photography. I no longer carry filters. I no longer carry a tripod. I no longer carry 50 pounds of camera equipment anymore. I know that this little camera right here has some of the best technology in it, and I have no issues whatsoever taking it anywhere I go. The battery life on it is pretty respectable. It's over, the internet rates it for about 500 shots. I've gone way more than that. Of course, the internet always lies. But for me, I do a lot of live ND, and that is, of course, more taxing on the computer. So keep that in mind. It's just like a high-tech computer, though. It has so much stuff packed into it, so many features. I could make an hour-long video talking about every feature in this camera, and I would be happy to do that if you guys wanted me to. But I guess I just kind of like to geek out about this camera. I find myself researching more and more every day about what features have I not used, what features am I missing, what features have I completely just overlooked entirely. There's so much stuff going on inside this camera that I have yet to get to, and I think that's probably number 5 for me, is I have yet to master this camera, and it's kind of exciting that there's things in here that I haven't got to yet. For example, the focus stacking, the graduated ND, the HDR mode. There's so many things in here that I have yet to scratch the surface of, and I just want to applaud OM System for putting so much tech inside of a body. It has me wondering, what will the OM-1 Mark III look like? Because this is already such a badass camera, I'm not really sure what more they can improve on. So I'm very curious what the future looks like. I absolutely love this camera, and I hope that this video helps sum up some of my favorite features and some of my favorite reasons that I purchased an OM-1 Mark II. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, let me know down below and consider subscribing. Do you have an OM-1 Mark II? Are you considering getting an OM-1 Mark II? Let me know your thoughts down below. This is Waterfall Joe. Have a great day. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.